Hi, today we're going to talk about the getup. In this video, we're going to cover what we think are important key aspects to the getup and how to efficiently and effectively do one.
Okay.
Okay?
Before we get going, it's important to understand in the getup, it really is about architecture. It's about building a solid foundation. So each piece, each phase of the getup should provide a solid base for whatever movement that you are going to make. A few things to keep in mind. You can move hand and foot positions during the getup. A lot of people seem to overlook that. They want to think that they've got to go down exactly the same way they got up. They can't move their hands or their feet. That's not true. You can readjust, and the purpose in many cases of readjusting is to make sure that each phase is fully supported by as many points of contact as possible, whether it's your hands, feet, body, and ideally the strongest part of your body should be supporting you. So for example, if you can have a hip supporting you versus a hand, I think that's a better habit to get into. So you can reposition, you want to be supported with each piece. If it doesn't feel right, it's not. So take your time, go through the getup, be able to go through both up and down. Make sure everything's in the right place. You will know when it's in the right place because it will feel easy. We're going to walk you through a few drills we do to help with hand placement, foot placement, etc. And we're going to break it down piece by piece. So whatever phase you're in, just remember you are building a strong foundation. If you do not feel strong, you're not. Figure out the right position.
Wow.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the roll. A very, very commonly misunderstood point is when you begin the getup, you are rolling. You are not doing a sit-up. Your motion should be like that. Okay, so go ahead and get into the getup and do the sit-up getup. So if you're going to watch, if you can see this logo here. The ideal position of the logo is it should just roll straight toward me, but what you're going to see is it's going to kind of rise straight up. Okay, so that is not the ideal way to do a getup. Now, there really are no rules to a getup as long as you can get up, but we're going to teach you what most people think of as a getup, and we're going to try and make it as efficient as possible. So what we want to do is you want to think about pointing your zipper, your belly button, and your sternum all toward me. So he's got his kettlebell there, let's pretend, and he's gonna roll. One of the important things that people, or one of the important things to understand is where to actually put the foot. It's common to see the foot here or here. I don't know what the ideal part or the ideal position for your foot is. My foot tends to be all the way up here. One of the things that's going to cause you to roll is pushing off of this leg. That's going to be the primary thing that's driving you that way. And this foot needs to be in a good position to drive into what is actually hip extension. So he's going to be driving here. Now, an easy drill for that is go ahead, cross your hands over your chest, and let's start with your foot here. He's going to roll, so remember those 3 points. He's going to point that way. He's going to drive off of this. He doesn't need his arms for this, and he's going to roll that way. Okay? Do that. How's that feel?
Good.
Okay. Move your foot here. See if that feels better. Does that feel better?
A little stronger.
So we at least want to get to the point where he's pointing straight this way. He's not going to need to go that far in the getup, but we want to make sure that he's got a really strong foot position. How did that feel?
Good.
Bring it up even higher. Okay?
Quite easy.
Okay, so is that your spot?
I think it might be.
Okay. Now, when you I said do, sorry. When you do your getup, your knee can dive in. A lot of people think it's a weak position. It's not. Your weight is evenly distributed here. He drives off this. His weight's going to be there. He can pick up that foot. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's awkward, but good demonstration. So don't worry about that knee diving in. It's not bearing any weight. The weight's going to be on this hip. So do this a few times. Figure out what your position is. Cross your arms over your chest. Get that rolling motion. Figure out how to do that. So we started the first part of the roll, which is the actual roll, but The leg is not the only driver of this movement. He's going to need to roll to his elbow. Now the roll is actually going to be a combination of, so let's say he's doing his right get up, it's going to be a combination of this right leg driving into the floor, pushing him that way. And he's also going to use his lat or stuff the pull, whatever muscles he uses on his left arm. So position here is going to be important as well. This is how we find position. So go ahead and get down into position there. So he's already found his foot position. He already knows where that was because of what we just did. Now his bell is in position. That's not going to move. Okay. Well, maybe up in the proper position, but he's go ahead and take your fingertips and trace from roughly your knee, and you want to point this elbow, pull that straight down, okay? So you get that good diagonal, and then he's going to point that way. Now, when you look at hand position, it's not going to be the same for everybody just based on your shape, how long this is, that is, whatever. You need to think of the objective. Now, a common piece of advice is to go down at 45 degrees, which this is close, or to go from the ear all the way down. But if you look here, he wants to bring this toward me. This is not in a good line to pull this toward me. What would make him in a better line is to go there and then down. When he pulls, okay, I'm gonna have him slap the floor a little bit just so he gets aware of that hand. I'm gonna have him push off of the right leg, slap the floor, and then pull with his back. Whoa, okay? So you see how the torso rolls into position. There's no sit-up, there's none of that stuff, okay? The bell is pushing straight up, okay? Go ahead and go back down. One more time. So go ahead and do the whole thing. So he's got his foot position already. He's gonna draw the line. He's gonna get in a good line. That's pointing right at me. And he's got his roll. We're gonna go through the first part, which is the roll to the elbow. The first thing though that he's gonna need to do is he's gonna need to pick up the kettlebell. We kind of skipped that part because he wasn't holding a kettlebell. He's gonna roll to his side. He's gonna reach super deep into that handle. Commonly when people start off with this, they reach to right about here and they don't really have support. He's reaching in so far that the kettlebell is actually impacting his wrist right about there. So he's gonna be super, super deep into there. He's gonna be really, really comfortable. He's gonna grab it with both hands. Is that close enough to you? There, now it is. So he's actually gonna roll his body. He's gonna use both of his arms. He's gonna roll this onto his chest. And he's going to push straight up. Some people like to do a little, they like to do a little gun with their fingers. I don't know why. But he's gonna push this kettlebell up with both hands, and then he's gonna give it a little bit of external rotation of his shoulder. That way, if the kettlebell does drop, it's safely away from his face. If he's internally rotated, he's just crushed his Adam's apple, okay? Safer, good. So we already have his foot position, he's gonna find his hand position, and he's gonna go ahead and roll. What we need to understand is this is pushing up. So the chest is going this way as the arm is going this way, okay? The arm is going to come along because it happens to be attached to the torso, and this is where the torso is, but he's not actively pushing the bell that way, he's pushing the bell this way. So let's go ahead and do that again. So we're gonna find, we've got the foot, he's gonna draw that line, torso rolls this way, bell goes straight up. Good, that's the roll. Now what we want to do is we want to take this one step farther. So he's going to do, the last piece was the roll to the elbow. He's actually going to get all the way up onto his hand and push himself over his same side hip. And we're going to go through that again. So let's just keep breaking this down. So he's going to reach super deep into the kettlebell, get a good grip, attach that kettlebell to his body. He's rolling with his body into position. Two hands are going to press up. External rotation so the bell doesn't crush his face. His foot is in the position we figured out with the roll drill. He's going to draw his line. Okay, he's going to slap the floor so he feels that contact. He's going to push and pull as that bell goes up there. So this goes this way, that goes that way. Now what he's going to do is he's going to turn this hand out just a little bit through the elbow. Okay. Now what he's done is he's able to push himself this way. He's going to need to readjust his foot, his right foot. Let's straighten this leg a little bit. Now he's going to be able to bear weight on that hip. We're going that way. So he's going to push himself over. Good. And now he's going to slide forward, get his weight over his right hip. Now I will know if his hip or if his weight is over his hip because he will be able to pick up his hand. Okay, this is not part of the get up. I want you to readjust that foot and I want you to get that weight over that hip and I want you to be able to hang out there for a few seconds. There we go. Now I know his weight is where I want it to be. Go ahead and come down. So this is one of those things. Let's do this unloaded. So this is something that we will often see is with setup. One, this little piece right here, people will miss this rotation out, which allows him to push that way. So people will try to push from the original arm position, okay? And another thing we'll see is even if the shoulder's in the right position, when he goes up toward his hand, he's putting his weight on his arm. His arms are not as strong as his legs. So we obviously want to get that weight over that hip. Now, when he picks up his hand, again, that's not part of the getup. It's just checking to see if you can get your weight over that hip. If you can, that's going to be a nice, comfortable position for you. So this is the getup all the way to the hand. Let's accentuate this hand position one more time. So we've got our drill. Okay, we're going to find our position. He's going to pull. He's up here. He's going to roll that out through the elbow, and now it's going to enable him to push. Okay, he's going to slide a little bit, make sure he's got good connection with the floor. Now he can get his weight over that right hip. He's good to go. We've found all the things we need to find. He's going to go through and do his setup while I'm talking here. Whoa. So the next thing we need to do is what's called the sit through, and that's one of the big transitions in the getup. So let's go ahead and go all the way up to the hand. So roll, push, turn out, push, get your weight over that hip. Now, this is the phase here. Why he wants to be over that hip is because he's going to reduce his points of contact. This leg is going to move, so he needs to really be firmly planted on this hand and that foot, primarily that foot. Again, his arms are strong, but not as strong as his legs. So we want to make sure this shoulder's open. He's got good contact here. He wants to have this arm as close as he can to support him. However, he doesn't want to jam himself up. So even if he can get his arm here, it may be too long. It probably is, okay? This is going to be one of those things that's going to be, person to person. If his arm was super long, it would have to be way out here. He wouldn't have a choice. It's just too long. You'd have to dislocate his shoulder to get it into the proper position. Well, don't. It's a bad idea. So we want to find a spot where the shoulder's open, where he can get good support on that hand. But he's not so close where he's going to jam himself up and he's not going to have room to pull this leg through this little hole he's making. So before we even do that, go ahead and pick yourself up on that foot and on this hand. See if you can pick that leg up off the ground. Does that feel comfortable?
Yep.
Okay. So he's just done a little test. He feels good. He feels comfortable there. What he's going to do then is he's going to apply pressure into the ground with his foot, apply pressure into the ground with his hand, and he's going to pull this leg straight through, and he's going to take this knee and he's going to bring it in line right around here with his hand. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Okay, so you see we have that was pretty good. We've got the line between the knee and the hand. He's pretty well supported. Now this is another situation. A lot of people will get their hand way out here. Okay, so you see how most of his weight now is on his arm rather than on his leg. We want that arm back where it was because this arm is going to shove him there. Now he's got his weight on his hip, and that's going to be prime for our next phase, which is going to be to go back into that hinge, and we'll go through that in a little more detail in a sec. So let's do the sit through one more time. So he's in his position. If he needs to, he can pick up his hand because he's got his weight. He's got his weight on that leg. Okay, so he's going to pick a hand position with open shoulder. He's going to be well supported, but not so close that he jams himself up. He's going to pick up his weight with those 2 points of contact, bring it through. The knee is roughly in line with the hand, and he's back. His weight is back on that left leg. It's not on the arm. Now, he could pick up his arm here. Okay? That's how we know his weight is where it's supposed to be. He's able to pick up that arm. Okay? Now we have him in this position. We've just seen, because he could pick up his hand, that his weight is on that left leg. Now, rather than trying to move up through his trunk, the only real strong muscles that he has to help him out are actually his hinge muscles. You see where he's kind of bent through the waist here, and what he's going to do is he's going to drive his left knee down into the floor, okay? And he's going to push this part of his pelvis into my hand, and he's gonna go ahead and come up straight onto his knee. Okay, let's one more time. You see where he's bent right there? So he can shift his weight back. Even if he shifts his weight back here, if this gets heavy, he can actually get a little bit of a stretch, which will load this and make it a little easier. So we can go back into that hip and then spring right up into there. Let's do that a couple more times. Okay, spring back, make sure you're loading the hip, and explode up. Boom, okay? So now he's going to be in this transition phase, and we're almost done with the first part of the getup. Now, from here, all we're going to need to do is we need to make a decision. So, what do you want to do? Your call.
I like.
Okay, so this is a step through. The other option would be to do what they call the windshield wiper and turn that foot there. This is kind of rough. He's wearing shorts, so you've got to be aware of the floor, so let's not do that again. So in this position, what he needs to do now is he needs to bring his right foot here. He needs to get up this way. This is where he needs to point, okay? That's going to be most comfortable for him, which means he's only going to have this back leg as a point of contact. So he needs to be really heavy on this side. He needs to be aware that he's got a kettlebell on the other side. So he's going to need to make sure that he may even need to stick this arm out. That's going to help move some of his mass over that leg. So he's got a good solid, he's got good solid balance, and he's ready to go into the next phase, which we should just go ahead and do. That was it.
Done. We're up.
So.
Okay.
Go ahead and get back down. Go ahead and get back down to that knee position. So when we're here, there is a decision. There is a decision to make. A lot of people are going to naturally want to drive off the back leg because that's where the weight just was. But now we have this front leg. Okay, he's going this way. Let's put the weight on the front leg because it just makes sense. So he's going to drive. He's going to drive with his back knee, pushing his weight forward over this foot. Go ahead and go back down. As soon as that weight loads this foot, jam it into the ground, and he's up. All right, so he's in the standing position. It's just called the get up, but there's also a get down. So
Be funky?
So let's go ahead and do that. Now, he's going to move this leg again. So he wants to be heavy on this right side. Okay, so he needs to make sure he's prepared for that. He also needs to step far enough back onto that knee. Go ahead and come back up. If he crowds himself, if he doesn't step far enough back, that front heel will lift, and you can see that he doesn't have good connection with the ground. That's really not a good structure. He hasn't been a good architect. So he needs to step far enough back and find that spot where he can support his weight. He doesn't want to go back too far because if he goes back too far, he's actually going to fall. Go ahead and come back up. Remember, at this point, he's on one point of contact. So if he's on one point of contact, at a certain point, if he goes too far back, he's going to fall. So he needs to make sure that he can keep that bell over that foot. That bell needs to stay over that foot, and he needs to bend, and he needs to put that knee down as soon as he can, but not too soon where he jams himself up. We moved this leg before. He needs to go back that way. So again, we're gonna reverse a lot of these steps. Let's go ahead and make sure that the weight is here, and let's go ahead and open back up. Okay. Now, at this point, we need to figure out for the next step how to put the hand back down on the ground, okay? An easy way to do that is to put this hand right in that crease, because remember, this is kind of a hip hingy weird thing. And so he wants to put his hand back in that hinge, and he's gonna trace straight down his thigh, and he's gonna find his spot. Now remember, we want a good line between this knee and this hand, okay? Is the weight still in that left leg? Okay, it is. He can pick up his hand, because what we need to do is we need to sit back through. So same thing applies. Let's go ahead and come back up. Let's go ahead and come back up. Okay, so he's got that leg turned out. Make sure that's in a decent position. You can adjust it if you need to. Okay, so let's turn that out. He's going to get his hand here into this hinge. He's going to let that come straight off. Find the floor. His weight's going to be shifted into his left leg and his right leg, okay, but primarily his left. He's going to make sure that he's got good weight distribution, a good connection of that right foot in the ground and the left foot, because that's where his weight's going to be. And go ahead and bring your leg through. Okay. Now notice too that he's been looking at his hand, or where the kettlebell would be, the whole time. The only time his eyes are going to be off the kettlebell is at the top, where he'll look straight forward, because if he looks straight up at that point, it's just weird. So I do want your shoulder open a bit. There we go. This is going to ready him for the descent, but we want to make sure that you've got the weight again back in that right leg. So go ahead and pick up this. Go ahead and shift and pick up that hand. Pick up that hand for me. Good. So open here and down to the elbow. Very nice. We're back here. We're in our sit through. He's got solid support. Now what we're going to need to do is, now one of the reasons why I wanted to check and make sure he's got some weight on that hand is he's going to need to move this arm a little bit. So we don't want too much weight on the arm. If there's too much weight on the arm, he's not going to be able to do what he needs to do. Now recall that as he came up, his chest was pointed back toward me. It's going to need to do that. That chest needs to open up and rotate back toward me as the elbow goes down. So now the chest is pointing toward me. That arm was here, turned out a little bit. Now he wants to turn it back so it faces the original direction, okay? And he's going to slowly roll back. Okay, go ahead and come back up. And there are two little form points that I want to point out. Make sure this foot is in position. Bring this foot right here for me. Now go ahead and do your roll. Okay, garbage. He's got nothing to support him. This foot needs to be in position to accept his weight. Just like it was there to push him over, it needs to be there to accept his weight on the way down. So make sure that foot is ready to go. Now he can be nice and slow. Now, one other thing that I want to point out is where to place the bell as you're moving down. This is something that I've heard called feathering the bell. I don't know why, but it's a really cool technique. And essentially what you're doing is you're moving down. You're moving your arm over the center of your body. If the bell is here, it's loading this side. That side's heavy anyway. This side's pretty well supported. So he's bringing this bell over his midline here. He's moving his torso and some of his weight over the center. So he's shifting his center of mass a little bit rather than crashing straight down. So go ahead and come back up. If he brings the bell back that way, not a lot of support, okay? But if he does the same thing, okay, go ahead and bring the hand over. Now I'm pushing. You see how much more control that provided? So bring that bell back over the center line, make sure that foot is there, and you've gone up and you've gone down.
There it is.
Or gotten up and gotten down.
Should we do one real quick with
Yeah.